So, what was I at? Utilizing the Earth's electromagnetic field, Mars, and so on, it may affect our health negatively. But here's the thing: you can also turn it around and utilize it as a positive way for humanity, also for growth as well. Because we don't there's a research lab in the middle of nowhere, right? Studying the human biofield, since it tends to be like 0.01% in voltage and around this. You can search that if you want on the internet. I think it could totally be used for human health completely. Essentially, if you can make certain living entities change and mutate through, frequencies affecting the DNA and changing it, or not changing it, just altering it.
Altering it in a positive way.
In a positive way. It can also be done negatively. It all varies in potencies because if your thoughts, for example, you can stress yourself out through thought alone, right? From what you see, you start producing cortisols or stress hormones and everything just by your thoughts alone.
That's true.
And you can also remove it by your thoughts alone, emitting certain frequencies that can actually produce physical matter to change and remove stress
All
levels.
of that.
So you actually are controlling physical matter with your thoughts alone. So if you can do that, right, there's different levels. It's not absolute all the time. Monks, they've trained all their lives. Their brainwaves from like 0 to 4, which is delta. Higher from 4 to 7, which is theta. And alpha from 7 to 12, alpha brainwaves. Beta all the way to 30, and then gamma is 40 and beyond. I may not have said that correctly, but that part. But essentially, monks have higher vibrational frequencies when it comes to brainwaves. So when they focus on something, it's very active. Most of us don't have that kind of activity. But you can through neurofeedback or self-entrainment, like constantly on those thoughts, you can actually increase those thoughts much more in frequency. So these monks, they can do things that are very questionable. I don't know if you've seen the research on it. They can increase their body temperature on command, like 18 degrees. That's not a small change.
It's a big change.
It's a hot change.
And it's just with the mind.
Yeah, just with the
Because
mind.
it's the power of the mind.
Yes, and also they can also enhance the density of their skin. So like they put it, one of them did a spear thing for the researchers to see. They put it right here in the softest spot, right? And the spear was forced on them to the point where the spear bended, right? Bending it. It's on recorded on some YouTube videos, like researchers doing it. It's a documentary in history, something like that. Which is very interesting. So when you put your thoughts and you train them in a higher frequency state, you have more control over what your body is doing. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, let me make a parenthesis here.
So
We are able to do that. The only problem that we have as humans is that we don't follow up on it. We can do it for 3 days, 4 days, let's say a month. But after that, we just turn to another thing and we forget about that. So we never get to the point where we can actually use that
Power.
power.
And the thing is that in a society, these days, the society we live
very busy.
is very busy and very fast. Everything has to be so fast.
Okay, so what the heck is busy? Busy is stupidity, though.
Yeah,
Busy is
Distraction,
stupidity. Busy is
multitasking.
exactly, it's not doing what you're supposed to do. That's busy. Okay.
It's part of
when you
this.
say when you okay, I can be working in a project. Okay.
You can be
And
what?
focus, working in a project, and I'm focused, right? I could say I'm busy. But busy is just noise, actually. But when you focus, you're living into this moment.
It's the
You're
mind.
gone into it. Somebody can talk to you, you won't listen to it.
Exactly.
You're gone. You're gone.
You're so focused.
That's not busy. That's actually deep into it.
Exactly.
Sure.
And that's what we call in clinical work, that was my second master's degree, is that mindfulness. You are so mindfulness, and it's a new thing in the last few years, maybe 10 years or so. And it's the power of your mind. It's mindfulness. You are so present and so focused
Person. Being
And,
present.
it's therapeutical. It's, you are diagnosed with whatever, let's say a mental illness, and mindfulness has been used as a new technique, new training, new treatment I will not say cure that, but because we have to do the evidence-based practice, and it takes years to prove that that technique or that training will really work. But it's doing a very good job in people that suffer from mental illnesses and people like normal like us, just to be able to focus and be present in that moment.
Okay,
It's
I got
powerful.
an objection and a question. Objection is, I told him, there was a student, a law student in the Catholic University of Puerto Rico, a very bright guy. Okay, he went crazy. He lost it. From there on, he was walking from Ponce to his hometown, Juanadías, every morning with a briefcase,
Walking.
coat, and tie to law school. And in the afternoon, back home. He was crazy. Now, where is his mind when he's doing that? Where is his mind? What do you think?
Very interesting.
He's focused. He's in law school.
I was gonna say that.
He's in law school. He is focused. So being focused is not the smart way.
No. You
It's
lose
not.
you lose
You can become crazy. You go
lose
crazy.
self-identity to a degree, and you just get lost in thoughts. I say.
Get lost. Now we talk about being crazy. You have to be crazy to be successful. Meaning, to the people around you, they say, "Are you crazy? Are you going to leave this job to do what? Go paint or something like that?" Okay, you have to be crazy. You have to have enough power within to move on to something you like to do, something you see, you visualize yourself doing. Instead
Visualization,
of just
another
being
technique.
paid just little salary and 8 to 5 work, so you can work out against all odds.
Visualization is another technique, yes, that will take you there, true.
That's the way I work. I visualize everything.
That's a true story, no? About the student that was
Yeah,
in law
it is.
school.
It is. Yeah.
The other unknown thing, I'm talking about electromagnetic fields. How does our brain really work?
Also quantum.
Okay, the brain is just a system for you to survive.
A transceiver, I heard, is just essentially what it seems to be. The
So
brain.
Transmitters.
the more life exposure you get to different situations, the more brain power you get.
I mean, the more experience you, the more wisdom,
That's called
exactly.
experience, right? So people who are learning through studying, for example, if they got the power to visualize, that's me. They got power to visualize, they're good. Because visualization is like living yourself, okay, like traveling. If you can visualize that, you're good to go. If you can't visualize, if you're studying, you're wasting your time. You have to go and live it.
And people who we were talking before about people that succeed and has to be crazy in their thoughts to be able to say, okay, I'm going to engage in this new adventure in my life. They visualize they are going from point A to point B.
Thinking off the box.
Exactly. When we engage in this type of new adventures, you have good jobs. You bought a house. You bought a new house. You're recently married. You are getting there. And then we said, getting where?
Getting where?
The status quo.
Ah, yes.
Status quo.
The status quo.
The car you're driving. The
Then
job
when we or other people we try to reroute, like the GPS reroute. When we try to reroute from this normality that society imposes on us, and we're supposed to have that pattern of life, beginning, middle, and end. Everything is like he said before. Are you crazy? How in the world you are going to be engaged in that new thing when the normality is this?
It can make you unable to breathe and.
Exactly. So the fears of the unknown and the attachment to the status quo prevent humanity from many things. Those who said, okay, this is the status quo, but despite of that, I'm going to try it, are the ones that are making a difference in this world. Otherwise, we will still living in caves. We would have never been able to just reach the universe or do the technology that we have these days. What do you think about that? We were still in the cave
Jumping
ages.
from caves and discovering little minerals in rocks to create computers later on.
When I was doing my dissertation for my PhD in the University of Michigan, I was teaching at the University of Michigan. I was teaching environmental courses. My students will say to me, "You are against technology." And I said, no, I am pro-technology if it's going to be used positively to advance society and life and health and everything else in between. I'm against the use and abuse of technology. Two very different things. The lens you use to analyze, to look at things and analyze, is very different from generation to generation.
And that's based on the experience they have.
And it's based
We
on-
are in the age of exploding information.
Exactly.
So a lot of info is out there to be grasped for people who want to grasp it. So the problem-solving capabilities will perhaps get more complex, and I assume, because back then, even if you were very smart, you were limited with data.
Exactly. And it was a simple life as compared to this one.
Yeah.
Like the millenniums. You're a millennium because my
Yeah.
daughter has your age.
Well, okay.
The millennials, you know, it's
Okay.
a very different story to the boomers, the baby boomers.
I have to say this. What is life? Okay.
Life.
You can be high in technology and you are way off the real life. When you get up there off the computer, remove your shoes, go outside and walk, step in the ground without shoes, walk around, listen to the birds. That's the real life. Technology is a tool. So
It is a tool.
we need to focus on the purpose. You know, what's the tool for? Okay, it is to live a life in peace. If I leave home and I left something behind, no matter what it is, could be the wallet. I can do nothing on the street.
You won't come back.
I won't come back.
I won't come back.
just go and suffer the consequences. So my mind learn next time. Man, forget the wallet.
Of course, there's a limit to it, you know. But
There's
No,
always a limit.
no, there's
No,
no,
no.
limit. There's no limit. If you put a limit, you're weak. You can put a limit. Okay,
You know-
I got to fly to Chicago, and I had to take some documents down there. I left them. I go to Chicago. I get there. The worse the situation is, the better for your brain.
Well, it's true because we learn from our mistakes and our lessons.
And the bigger, the better.
And on those lessons, we use them to do better next time. So I was looking at this documentary, Walter, and I was again back then, 78 cocoa, which is the real chocolate stuff. And the relationship and the possibilities of this, world that we don't know being so present in our history and so related to what we are and what we were and what we might be, that we were not the only ones here. There was something before us that's still impacting us in knowledge and everything else in between. I was like, oh my God. The Aztecas and the Mayas were not only visionaries, they were advanced. How do you explain all that architecture and building?
There's tools, different tools that so advanced before Christ.
But that were not ready and available to us in that time. They have to be brought from a civilization that was very advanced. How do you think about that word?
I don't have the expertise and knowledge
We
to
don't
say
know.
much.
We don't have it either.
But there's a lot of oddities when it comes to the past of that era, all those eras. Because some things you don't want to resort to simple answers like like aliens and whatnot. Because it's dead end. If once you say it's ETs, it ends up pondering questions. So I know there's been some oddities in there in which
Finish your thoughts. Let me extract from your mind.
Push it.
We want to hear
for
it.
example, drawings of extraterrestrials, like that they done in the past, they drew what they understood. Because I watched a little bit of Ancient Aliens here and there. I'm not a big fan of it, but because it's all about making money and whatnot, so they exaggerate. Apparently, there's some drawings. I tried looking for them on the internet. I haven't really found them. Found a few in which, like, religion here and there, they they did certain drawings about glowing objects back then, you know, and them influencing society. I can't say much about it because I have no solid evidence directly. So, but what I can speak on, like in a theoretical sense, is in if I'm using the word correctly, it's their influence in the past, influencing people who are actually drawing what they believe they understood, from like the pyramids, or so, like, oh, this is more solid.
Okay.
Recently, because of Trump, he
There you go, bro.
Now we go to politics.
he signed something that made certain officials force some release of documents.
Oh yeah, now the debate, okay, in Congress, okay.
And this first release of documents involves UFO stuff, like in World War II. The military released information involving alien crafts and stuff like that, and interactions they had. This information has been provided by the military. And
Oh, the military. Uh-huh.
yeah, it's come in the news and everything. This information being released, right, from beings that they can do stuff that breaks the physics that we know of. Accelerating from 0 to 1,000 and beyond. So facing from one part of reality to half the ship, some other reality, I don't know what. That stuff's coming out from the military, what they understood. Oh, they released interactions they had with the aliens.
Exactly, two spectrums of.
They shot at the aircrafts and they stopped the bullets
Exactly.
in midair and returned it right back to the. Why were they even there? That's the question. Like,
Exactly.
the aliens didn't even have to interact. It's a puzzling question to me, because why would they even interact with us like that? According to General Byrd, from the military, he was commanding his own section in which to map out South Pole.
Exactly.
It's got to map it. That was the excuse. But this was after World War II, so they went on there. This is all declassified stuff.
After 50 years, they can declassify.
Yep.
But then everything is more black than.
Yep.
You can just do extract.
Well, he went over there with exaggerated amount of armament for some reason to explore Alaska. Right? The thing is, the funny part is that they weren't armed enough, because almost no one came back
So we are in the South Pole.
We're in the South Pole, whatever that is called.
with an exaggerated amount of armament for no reason at all to map out the South Pole. So
And?
when they went on there, almost no one came back. Reason being is because when they came on there, apparently, according to General Byrd, they were encountered by, beings with, they didn't say beings, but craft that apparently the blink of an eye will be one spot and then in another in an instant.
They disappear.
Yeah, they will.
They fly not in a straight line.
There was
I know.
there was no chance for the
Zigzag.
aerial crafts to
To
fight off
survive.
something like that.
Yeah.
Like they will be flying, but they're so slow compared to the craft that they
Boom,
could
boom,
be.
the speed of the light more
Yeah, I mean, what chance do you have when
to survive.
when you're fighting something like that?
Zero.
With that craft, yeah.
And in the South Pole, where you are by yourself.
Yeah. So they got their asses whooped. I don't know the details on why or how it even got to that point, but they were. I jumped a lot of things, but they were trying to map out the South Pole, and General Byrd was apparently drawn into like his craft stopped in midair, dragged in somewhere. At this point, it's all about he said, so there's no legitimacy really on.
But nobody survived, no?
No, they survived. A few.
A few. Maybe they are traumatized. Maybe they don't know what they remember.
If it's classified, no one would have been able to speak much.
They're
about
right.
it.
Because even at 50 years, they will just release whatever is there, but most of the pages will be just black.
One of the most important things that I draw out of this is not necessarily maybe the hostility, is that the South Pole may have entities that, not from this earth or so. And the World War II, while war was occurring, according to the military's release of documents, we interacted with them at least 3 times before we decided to say to the military not to fight them, or not to engage them in any way. Because every time we fought them, the first encounter was on a river, and they fired at it because they didn't know what the heck it was, and they fired right back with their own rounds.
Because we as a society, especially United States of America, of course, we're talking about that. We just fight.
It's a wartime too.
Exactly.
And so when they called the aircrafts to hit it, so they fired, the Air Force disappeared.
Because they disappear in the speed of light.
I don't know what
They just
speed.
disappear.
They just disappeared. So one of the Navy boats got hit by a missile from one of those ships that fired at the UFO. So apparently that butt wipe grabbed it and relaunched it. Why is my question.
Why?
And at that point, after that, they said for all U.S. military, not to fire at those crafts whatsoever. But a couple of military personnel didn't get that memo, because when they spotted one,
they fought.
They shot at it on foot, right? And it emitted some radiation, some waves of some sort of energy particles, right, or something that made them get the same symptoms of radiation, right? They threw up, they felt the same sickness and everything, even though they hid, but the UFO was like stalking them and whatnot. So I don't get why.
How did you explain that? How?
I mean, they didn't die of radiation poisoning, but it was something similar to it. Like, it affected them for the rest of their lives. So it kind of crippled them to a degree. But like that kind of assery, I'm making up the word. They, according to Dr. Stephen Greer, we have the technology. Like, some parts of it we don't understand or understood back then, because it was beyond our understanding, because we didn't know anything about the quantum, we don't know anything about certain other fields that we're not beginning to understand.
At least now we are beginning to try to understand.
Yeah. You have an aircraft from advanced thousands of years ahead, right? And you don't want the rumors at all even getting whiff.
Exactly.
So you would lie, because you want this to advance your nation. One thing I can draw for solid, right, mostly solid, is that there's entities out there. They're interested in this planet, and for some reason want to feel involved and interacting with us in violent ways, or not. I don't know what they're actually doing, but the effects of this will influence, for example, how we perceive them in dominance and so on.
I put up here in our work, these 3 pieces plate, so you can inhale some substance that is in the plate through this piece. And this is to cause you vomit.
Yes.
That's the reason. They try to separate the body feelings, how you feel about the body,
Okay.
and go out of your body. So they're looking into a substance, they call it cojoba. Cojoba. That's a tree and hallucinant. Why the Indian population have this tradition of getting high to get in touch with the outer world.
You're talking about the indigenous population, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so there's a pull to be out there. Like, we have to connect with something out there. They were using this. It's a drug. But they have to get high. Why? Cojoba.
Cojoba.
All I know is that Dr. Stephen Greer talks about how to communicate with these entities. Essentially, is by being in a meditative state.
Why we have to get out of our old conscience and move out to someplace else? Why? Are we missing something? Are we lacking something in our system, in our conscience, or mind, or body?
Apparently. People who lived back then had a different sense of reality.
You know what?
But,
when I grew up here in Yahuicas, and also in another little place called Pellejas, between Adjuntas and Utuado, my dad, who didn't finish
I was born in Pellejas.
You were born in Pellejas? very close to the school, the elementary school, or
No was the curve in the street in the curve.
still on a curve. So my dad was a very believer on those things that we're talking about, like, you know.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were not the only ones in this planet. He always told me. He bought me when I was in 3rd grade or 2nd grade. He bought me the first microscope that I still have.
All right.
Wow.
We used to. Okay, let's wait until it's very dark and we can see the stars, and let's see what we can see. When we live in Pellejas, we live in a house that is called one of those.
There was a hacienda there.
Haciendas, exactly, sugarcane. It has a big balcony around the whole house. It was like in the middle of nowhere like this.
Oh.
So when you were by yourself in looking at the sky, you have just the universe in front of you. And we would go with the telescope, and my dad would say, look, look, look. That was my first encounter, my first vision with aircraft from out of this world. And after that, with my dad, I saw like 3 of them.
Or
Took him to
unidentified
Pellejas.
flying objects.
Flying objects. To Pellejas
There was
at
a
night.
UFO.
What is
But
there?
that's before the age of Adjunta was crazy about.
Exactly. That was before this big thing about
I think the 70s, right? That's
70s. We're not the only ones here.
Well,
I dream of those whatever things taking me, and
Really, Mavirdia?
really. I'm a believer.
Wow.
There's something I was saying earlier that I didn't finish, but it was Dr. Stephen Greer. He's a big, heavy guy on this field. He talks about he was in the disclosure project. Are you familiar with it? You know who he is. Oh damn! Okay, I'm surprised.
Yes.
First one I ever talked to about.
No, because recently I saw this documentary and they were talking about all of that.
So you seen how he has a conference about this the disclosure about aliens and whatnot, their technology and all that, and how he brought like a ton of people from all branches of the military, CIA, FBI, showing validation of who they work for, and saying who they are, showing all their information.
All the credentials.
And then some of them brought evidence of their information along with it too. And there was a question that at the end of the video that was asked, like, how many of them are there?
Exactly.
One of them answers real quick. He said there is about 200 that are known, right? And some of them looks just like you
Like
and me.
you and me. Exactly. I saw that.
And he said that they could walk right next to you and you
Next to
wouldn't
you
be
and
able
you
to.
wouldn't.
He essentially let us know that there's 2 more movies after the Disclosure Project, like way separated. There's one that came out recently and made the government release the documents from the aliens. But the main core United States, right, forced a lot of companies to release detail and everything involving alien stuff, the technology, everything. Yeah, from I don't remember.
Well, didn't you say 2 movies coming? Or
Oh, that's from Dr. Stephen Greer.
Oh no.
They already came out,
Yeah.
and I'm saying that the last one, essentially, pretty much, he says that it forced the government to essentially release
To
documents.
release those documentation.
Yeah, because at this point they're already Area 51 is already known, especially because of that raid.
Exactly.
You know,
And that is we're talking about years.
it
and
made
years.
the government actually officialize that, recognizing that Area 51 actually does exist.
Exactly.
So ever since then, everything's been downhill for them
Exactly.
because the government is getting under
Under.
everything.
Scrutiny.
Yeah, making everything surface out because it's
They cannot deny it anymore.
no, they can't.
It's like the Philadelphia Project. We used to have a book that is called the Triángulo de las Bermudas.
Apparently, from what I understand, which I don't really understand,
We don't.
is that according to today's science, right? They heard from somewhere that there is a massive crash of pressure wind that brings down craft and all that stuff.
I never heard that
But
before.
I don't know why it does that. Like,
But you know, there is another one. There is 2 triangles like that. Exactly the same behavior
Japanese area.
in Japanese area. Very, very, very in the East Coast.
Yeah.
that behave exactly.
That one's less known though.
It's less known, but it behaves exactly in the same
Yeah.
way.
It's called Japanese.
It's in Japanese in the East Coast.
Yeah. And I don't know why, but apparently there's a lot of crush wind pressure. I'm not talking facts. I'm just talking about what I've heard.
Exactly.
And like
But the only fact that we do know is that those things have disappeared.
shit disappears. Yeah.
And
Shit disappears. That's the only fact.
And airplanes disappear.
Yep.
They don't disappear though. They change.
Hey,
Different
good.
dimensions.
Yeah, so if you're in dimension
Dimensions.
1 and you move to
That's the word I
dimension
was
2, you won't be able to see me. And dimension 2. So disappearing is changing dimension.
Okay, so
Like if you go into that thing,
different pages of this reality, in other words.
exactly. And maybe to a different reality, no?
Completely could be. Yeah.
So from all this talk, we have to think about who we are and where we are in what dimension. You see a ghost, it's in different dimension.
And then that relates also to this concept we call time.
Human invention.
Well, every concept is a human invention.
Right.
Every concept.
I agree. What happened within the next 10,000 years?
We don't know.
No, what's
Or
happened?
10,000 years before that. So every concept is created by us human beings, and every concept is biased.
And it's also limited.
And it's limited. Yeah.
I just got what you were saying by numbers, like fourth dimension. You were trying to say different states, like fourth dimensional being. Essentially, to give you an example, what he was saying is that a third dimensional being us, being able to see space, and left and right, right? Mm-hmm. And while two-dimensional being can only see left and right, and one-dimensional being, essentially a dot. So
Exactly.
a second-dimensional being, them being able to see left and right, us compared to us being a third-dimensional being, seeing space, we can see things that they cannot see.
They cannot see. Exactly.
So a fourth-dimensional being essentially can see beyond walls. There is no obstacles for us. So there was a movie that they made. It was a horror movie. Apparently, this group of people created a device to amplify a certain prayer that they would do, amplify about 1,000 times. And what they essentially did was call an entity from a different dimension. And this entity, not necessarily that friendly. So no, and so what it did was since you can't really hide from a fourth dimensional being, right? It can see you from whatever.
We call it it.
Because I don't know what it is.
Maybe it's a cheer here or there.
I'm calling it to be just to generalize it.
Yes.
That
is proper.
In this movie, apparently a metal that absorbs most electromagnetic fields. I'm not saying it'll work on a four-dimensional being. It was used as defense. Iron was used as a defense against this being, right?
A defense for?
Iron tends to absorb a lot of electromagnetic. Copper tends to be more useful because it absorbs more specific waves of electromagnetic fields. Iron, on the other hand, it's more. They talked about it to be more. I don't know. Different metals absorb different states of fields. Electromagnetic fields. It's not very conductive. Iron.
Okay.
So
why?
Have you seen the spectrum of what each element can absorb best?
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But you can throw a lot of speculations on that. So, in this
sense.
movie, they were using it as a defense against it, but they all died because this being can make things vibrate in a different state. It can make it vibrate through walls or halfway into a wall, right? Because it threw things everywhere, and like a chair was halfway in the wall, like it was one with it. And then it can do that to a human being. So what it was doing is it was grabbing each human being one at a time.
One at a time.
I don't know why. So
Break. I think it should be a movie producer. But these
I
ideas,
think-
you put those these ideas in a movie. It's not ideas. It's knowledge. But you can project that in a movie. You can make a lot of money. You can be billionaire, man.
Probably, but I would need a lot of money to start it.
Not really.
Oh, okay, you would know.
Exactly.
You work with somebody else's money, not with yours. The money is in the bank. You just need to get somebody to get it for you. That's it. You don't need money, man. The
So
money's already there.
you sound interested in like contacting UFOs, both of you. So you perhaps have seen this part. Dr. Stephen Greer teaches us how to communicate with them. You seen that part?
Yes.
Have you ever tried it?
No.
I haven't.
I
either.
have to be honest with you. All.
I miss that.
Okay. Go
What
ahead.
was about?
Repeat it.
Dr. Stephen Greer, I told you this before, teaches us, the one with the disclosure projects. He goes to the government sectors and everything and talks about, but the point is that he teaches us how to contact aliens and summon them over here
Do you know how
Right.
this topic has
through
evolved?
consciousness. As
But-
if one thing at a
What
time.
I'm afraid of.
He says that their craft is made. Some of them are made out of consciousness or something like
An
that.
aircraft made of consciousness.
But it might.
I have to put that in a post, in a blog, my website.
But when I think about communicating with them, I am maybe blocked, or I have some hesitations or some fears.
He says that certain people that have huge egos, like a lot of knowledge, they don't tend to be drawn to those individuals, so they may not show up. They're drawn to like the more of a spiritual growth areas of people, or who are curious. I don't know.
But
He
we are.
explains it. He explains
I
it.
know.
The more ego you have, the more away you are from consciousness.
Of
Apparently,
course, of course.
it was about children.
But what you were saying reminds me of something. You know, autism, again, everything is related to everything. Autism has been growing and grow. At least it has been more exposed to our knowledge than before. Like, for example, in California, there are hundreds of organizations dealing with autism, which means that there is a growing population of children, male and females, with this condition.
Well, you know that actually is focus. Autism is focus.
Now,
They are in their own world.
exactly. But going to your point and connecting to that, most of them are so intelligent.
Yeah.
They are in another level, which goes to your.
How is there?
But they are just so much higher in another dimension.
I want to ask something. How is their creativity? Like, for example, ingenuity and stuff like that.
Oh, logic, ingenuity, creativity, painting, art, you name it. They are all rounded.
Okay, that's good.
My daughter knows 6 languages.
Oh,
I
really?
am
didn't know
jealous.
that.
6 languages. I taught her sign language when she was, I told you, 3 years old.
Okay, hold on. When you were 7th grade, you used to pass the code of the test by sign language.
Because in la segunda de Yahuecas,
Yeah.
I have 2 first cousins, second cousins from my dad's side, who came from the metropolitan area to adjuntas, to Yahuecas, to be integrated into our skills.
Those are los que eran mudos
Los que
solos.
eran mudos solos.
Oh, really? The family
They
groups?
were second cousins from my dad's side, Rios.
I
My
remember
dad
them.
was
I
Italian,
remember them.
and they taught us the sign language.
Oh, that's what it was.
And I don't know if you remember, but they look like us. She looked like me, and he looks like my
He was a
brother.
tall guy, white guy. Kind of,
Yeah. So I learned that from them. So
Oh.
when my daughter was 4 years old, I was very sick. I was dying, and she was living with me. I couldn't say a word to her. I couldn't do anything for her. So I taught her sign language in order to communicate with her smart. She's very smart.
Well, here's one thing. she better reproduce. You know.
I want to have two of her, no matter if it was a female or a male, but I only have
It's
her.
there's a much higher chance for a female to reproduce than a male, because when they have higher IQ, most males don't reproduce, and
Male or
True,
female?
true, very
Both.
true.
females tend to have like a 90% chance.
Okay, I got up here Quixote woman.
Quixote woman.
Okay, why she's here? The Quixote woman is the different thing, right? We know about the Quixote. So it's a story. It's a story. We live about stories. Everything is about stories. What we think is what we live. Okay. The Quixote is just an experience of human history presented in this case in a woman. We know more than Quixote. Okay. So how we can move up from the Quixote, being a woman or whatever, could be a person who is transgender.
LBTG.
Exactly.
Because these days
So,
we need to
so it
acknowledge
is
that.
the same. Okay, we start with a Quixote, male guy.
And then a male,
Now we
and
turn
then
a
something
woman.
else.
So it could be anything.
It can be a
But,
Q.
but the main point is, what's the message? What's the purpose? Okay, we are within a story. So we are within a story. We have to move up and change dimension, let's say, from this point of view of a story. We are something else that we don't know yet what it is.
We never know
Yeah. Oh, yes, we always know.
until the end.
Because that's supposedly we know, and not just we will know what it is. We'll be able to profit from that knowledge.
We're talking about our identities, no?
You know how children learn so easily? They learn
Language and
They got no ego. They got no ego for one thing.
one thing, yeah. One of them that I understand is that theta brainwaves in certain regions of the brain, especially when you're a kid, it's much higher. And with that, they learn
piece.
300% faster. 300% faster. So the older we get, we start losing those brainwaves, right? And according to with neurofeedback and those magnetic things that they're using now, you can actually replicate those things now. So to reach those levels, those really smart individuals, I don't know if it's possible, but it is. We can enhance our own intellect of processing information and learning speed. So that's what brought me about. You can enhance your own self in a higher state by affecting your certain brainwaves. Because I'm more of in the field of electromagnetic field and usage of it, like enhancing human beings or living entities.
It has been studied over and over, and the results have been always the same about kids.
Oh, kids.
How we as kids are able to learn so fast and so much. And one of the things that have came into the picture is, as kids, we can focus. We can be mindfulness. The only thing that we are like a sponge. The only thing that matters is gaining that knowledge. We don't have any other worries in the world.
Let me add to that. The kids got that, what you say, but they are for self-preservation. They're looking for how they can dominate. How they can acquire what they need, what they think they need. So whatever they do is trying to be ahead of all the other guys. They don't territory. So what they're learning is how to survive themselves, how to go ahead of the other guys.
I married this guy. He's always out there. Like he's in another world. And he always is in another world.
If I understand it correctly, it's the same thing like my sister. When she starts focusing on something, she can't hear anyone around her. And here's what I come to understand, since she has bipolar disorder, right? Bipolar disorder, from what I understand, is gamma brainwaves, 40 hertz and higher.
I know because I studied psychology clinic. That's my second master's degree.
So when they hear, or other parts of the brain in general, an input that's converted into brainwaves, right? That brainwaves in a certain frequency, I don't know what, theta, alpha, I don't know. Apparently it does not link with...
That's why neurology is so important there.
Yep. So what I'm saying is that the frequency is so high, but you can do the same thing like the monks. You can enhance it if you know what you're doing.
And if I'm trying to.
Neurofeedback is the key to
It's
this.
the key neurofeedback.
Back to-
Water. You talk about the PhD. You're a master of this stuff.
You master that
So you
stuff.
got a lot of power though. That's what I have to say.